Hoy hoy. So Kickstarter recently fulfilled, shipped their product. This was a project done by Per Holmstrom. I don't know if I'm pronouncing anything right. I'm not Swedish. But he did the translation, organization, and everything. He ran the Kickstarter. You can still buy the standard edition on Grottkral, GOTTKRAL.SE. I'll put the link down below, but it can still be purchased in English or Swedish, and you can get the PDF as well on drive-through. I think the PDF is 20. The book I think is 35 USD, and I don't know what the shipping kind of looks like. Maybe that's included with the shipping. Maybe it's 30 plus shipping. I don't know. But I wanted to get the limited edition, which I did clearly. But they had there's a pairing one, a level that was pairing, and I think the standard was only like an extra $20 if you did it that way, and then the shipping handling would be free for the second book, essentially. So I went with that one just so I could like have the second book, maybe like give it away or use it or something. So I've kind of ultimately clearly decided I'll just use the standard book, and I'll put the limited edition on the the shelf. It has the same kind of faux leather as the other Dragonbane books, and the gold embossing. So yeah, and it's really nice on the side here. And it comes with a map stuck on the back. So did the standard edition. They both come with a map. These are A5 sizing, hardcover. This one has, if you take a look at the black there, it's got like a cross hatching as part of the cover. Like if you ever picked up a premium book from 1980s, 70s, or 60s, this is more of what they would have, like a cross hatching, firm, matted covering. So it is matted. It's got the, of course, we have to have ribbons, right? And it's really nice. The edges are really sharp, like a really 90-degree edge cut, and really stuck to the side. So it's really, really nice feel to it. The actual image of the dragon is it's not like a sticker, but it's a kind of a glare embossed onto it. It's got like a different type of print on it. It's flush to it, so it's not a big deal. And of course it comes with a map, and the map and the paper inside is this very stiff, I don't want to use the term absorbent, but very kind of an aged, absorbing ink, not bleeding, but a really kind of rich look to it. You'll know that because if you've used Vaesen or Dragonbane, same kind of type of paper that really soaks in the ink and kind of, I would say the term dulls it slightly, but it's still very rich color, it's still very good, and still very sharp. And the pages are made of the same kind of material, like a stiffer, richer kind of paper. So it's an A5 size hardcover, and this is a supplement, third-party supplement, so not official from Dragonbane. But Drakborgen, The Secret of Ath Ungol, there's kind of a lot of history to this, and of course you can't do a proper review without history, and I'm an academic and a scholar first, so we're going to go over that before anything else. But Dragonbane is from the early 1980s, ran off of the BRP system. This is Chaosium. You'd roll D100s and roll under kind of skills and things like that. And it was originally called Drakborgen, Demoner, or something like that. Again, I'm not Swedish. So Per Holmstrom, gonna mispronounce some stuff. It's got this nice kind of filigree around the outside. I like that too. But if you want to make any third-party stuff, if it's Shadow Dark, Mothership, anything like that, you're going to have SRDs and files and things that will, like this supplement kind of image that you can inlay on top is free from Free League, or Freeligen, as it would be known in Sweden. And so you can make your own third-party stuff. This is important because Shadow Dark is becoming much, much bigger. You're going to start to see people like Roll for Combat do more Shadow Dark material as it starts to grow more and more in popularity. It's being very competitive with something like D&D or Pathfinder. But in Sweden, there's a lot of supplements for Dragonbane. There's and most of them are available in English, but not all of them. So when I saw this and it was available in English, sometimes after a Kickstarter, it won't be available in English, or there'll be a limited print run. So I kind of wanted to get it now rather than later, and it was a neat and interesting idea. So Drakborgen, 1980s, passed hands a couple times. It went to Riot Minds, and Riot Minds sold it in 2021 to Free League, and they actually released their own system just before they handed it over, which if you go and look that up, it's kind of interesting. Look, uses a lot of the Johan Egerkrans art, and as you can see here, if you look at that too, you'll see a lot of Johann's work. And the art books from Johann Egerkrans also uses a similar paper here. This really kind of stiff cardstock that really absorbs ink. Okay, so let's actually talk about the book then. Drakborgen is a board game in 1985, Sweden as well. Not, as far as I know, not related to Dragonbane or Drak Numenera at all, but they are both early 1980s, mid-1980s Swedish designed gaming pieces, tabletop stuff. And it was a board game. And the board game was a very deadly enter a dungeon, room to room, wandering monsters, traps, treasure, dragon lair at the end, hoard as much of that dragon gold as you could, and then try to escape. And so it's a very deadly, very cash grab, break in, grab things and get out kind of heroic type of fantasy board game. And so this is a conversion of that into a book form as a book that can be run for Dragonbane. And this was originally kind of done as an add-on for Forbidden Lands. I think, no, Per Holmstrom didn't have, I don't think he worked on that. But he worked on this, which was converting the Forgotten Lands add-on book, which is very similar to this, as far as I know, to Dragonbane. Now, Dragonbane is very OSR. You could use this in any OSR. I mean, most of the time it's just stat blocks from creatures that need to change a little bit. But the Dragonbane one, creature stat blocks are very basic. So you could easily run this in Shadow Dark or any other OSR. Low HP, deadly kind of OSR kind of setting. So that's where this kind of comes from. Drakborgen inside of Dragonbane. And you'll be able to find a lot of these third-party Swedish-led supplements, even on the Frieligen website, if you go to their actual Swedish front page. But there's things like Windheim, which is a really high production setting piece, which is a northern, wintry representation or setting part for Dragonbane. And on first glance, if you just look at it, it looks like it would be done by Free League itself, but it's third party. I didn't like the art in Windheim, so I didn't really get it. But there's many supplements for Dragonbane. So essentially, this is the table of contents. Well, not essentially, it is. And it has the opening pieces of information, the sectors, and then things like traps, random tables, treasures, monsters, basic kind of stuff. And basically what this is it's a deadly cursed castle that the players can enter, that once they're inside, they're immediately put on a timer, and they have to go through a certain amount of sectors. The book typically outlines 3 sectors, then the end layer, and then 3 sectors. So 3 to get in, the dragon's lair, which is in 4 parts, and then 3 sectors to escape. Okay, and you have 30 sectors to choose from. And so you could run this several times, and if you use 6 sections in total, you could run this a total of 5 times before you would run out of content and have to do it again. And even if you did, each one of these sections has a key room, and that key room has an A, B, C possibility. So there's different ways to represent that keyed room, that important room. And the others are considered empty rooms, and the empty rooms use random rolling to determine whether it's actually empty, whether there's traps, whether there's a monster, whether there's treasure, all of that type of stuff. Now, the art in this is acceptable. I wouldn't say it's amazing or great. I would say that it is acceptable or good. Now that's subjective, but again, something like a lot of these Swedish ones, I personally don't tend to enjoy the art. So there's room maps for every room. They're nicely colored, adds a bit of splash to the actual book itself, because it really stands out against the font and the darkness, right? And so there's a big kind of setup, background, ways to get to the Ath Ungol, which is the castle in the center here. So the map itself, they give you a map as well when you get it, and I think I showed you, maybe I didn't anyway. We'll go back anyway. And again, it's on really stiff, thick, hard cardstock. And again, it's going to be matted, soaked in that ink. So this is it, and you'll see that, I don't know, okay, so it's up here. Okay, but there's a whole map that goes with this, right? Multiple times the size of what you're kind of seeing here, but the front cover and the back cover of the book have portions of the map. And so there's really, in my mind, I'll kind of jump ahead a bit, but in my mind, there's like 3 ways to use this book. You could use it as part of a setting. You could plop it somewhere on your map or have it be a legendary kind of location that appears every 3 years, 5 years or something, like some kind of a rare occurrence to open, or you could just leave it there on the map for them to kind of go to. I wouldn't center a campaign around it. I would just have it as a piece, a nice deadly draw, we'll say, for people to kind of go to should they want to take that kind of risk, you know. The other way is to just do it as like a one shot, like Halloween, one night or something like that, or at your local game store, and you just want to run something for people, something kind of that's just one night, and to see if they can kind of get in, get the treasure and get out. The last is this funnel version, and the funneling is a lot like a meat grinder type of style. This is very Dungeon Crawl Classics or AD&D 2nd Edition Dark Sun, where you would have many characters, and this one you will have 10 like villagers or basic characters or level zeros, kind of sometimes how it was done, or level ones, or I think in Dark Sun you flash forward to level 3 or something. Anyway, the idea is that many people will die because of how harsh the environment is, and this one is a harsh environment. And so this idea is that instead of making a backstory per se in a very dangerous world, you would do some kind of a meat grindy dangerous mission where players would bring with them several characters, and then if it died, you put in the next and the next and the next, and then as you're going through, you're probably, pushing people under the bus, so running ahead of them, tripping them, getting lucky, surviving, sacrificing a guy, and whoever makes it out the other end, those 3 or 4 characters, the ones that actually did survive, now they do have a backstory. Their backstory is what they had to do to survive, to get that initial boost in gold, to get that first push to level 2 or 3, and that is their backstory. Something that the table of the players kind of really laugh about and remember all the crazy times and the things that their characters had to do to survive. So that's kind of what the tunnel is all about, and that's really nice. It was a stretch goal that they kind of reached there. So essentially, again, you do 3 sectors, the chamber, and then 3 more sectors, and that's how you get out. So every time you are in a room, it can be an event, and this gives you 3 suggested events for the key room. You can roll on a table of events if you want to use that either for the key room or random rooms, but there's also traps, enemies, treasures, and trap doors that are all part of putting the rooms together. So empty rooms are really filled by the random tables. Here's the other key thing, the time in the castle. So essentially this is how it works. They give you some suggestions for increasing difficulty, but the basis is 3 layer 3, and every time you do something, you lose a time unit. So they suggest starting with 20 time units for players. And every time they do any one of these 4 things, they lose a time unit. And every time you investigate a sector, you're in a combat for more than 1 round, you move between sectors, or you rest for longer than a single round. So you have to kind of keep moving and be very careful with what you do. And every time you move through a sector, you're automatically going to lose 1 anyway. In combats that bog you down, you're going to start losing them. If you have to rest to gain kind of resources and health, you're going to lose time units. So these time units are like a timer. I guess you could use like the sand timer, or you can use these time units. And the sand timer is like if you were to do actual time, but this kind of simplifies it down into just these time units. Now, the key here is they give you 20, but you might want to use this a little bit to kind of figure out what a good number is. But I think 20 is probably pretty accurate. And as they want to up the difficulty, you would add 1 or 2 more sections to the beginning of the game itself. And it tells you that the GM should probably choose the sectors manually. I think that's actually pretty good to make sure that the rooms kind of flow a bit better and you have an idea of what the difficulty will be, rather than roll the rooms. Which sectors, I should say. The empty rooms, sure, you can roll, but the sectors should probably do a little bit of hand picking beforehand. I have an idea on how to change a little bit of this if you're going to use it in like a game as part of a piece on the map, a pin on the map for like a campaign. But for a one-time shot, a one-shot, or for funneling, then these rules are they're just fine. They work just fine. They have an extra, like a half-elf and some heroic abilities to kind of like add on if you want to use that. Here's the funnel rules, but we'll jump straight to the sectors. So there's the entrance, but each time there's a key room and then some empty rooms that get filled in. And here's the A, B, and C that would determine what's in this kind of key room. And they're very different, right? This one is just treasure, and there's some orcs. This one has a goblin, Skarga, and this one has just a mountain troll, right? And so some of them always have a combat, some of them don't. This one is really just the key room itself, and then this little hole at the back, and depending on A, B, or C for the event, changes what's going to happen in that hole, right? And then once you move through, it'll like close on you and you have to kind of push forward. This one again, empty room, key room, A, B, C. So you might have used A the first time. The next time you ever run this and you do happen to run into the altar, you would use a different event. And so you have like the well, canteen, some of them use 2 pages, the guardhouse. So it's all the locations that you might find in a castle, right? And you are just kind of sewing them together to fit this game, right? So we get all that. We get through the sectors. There's 30 of them. You pick 3 and then 3, as well as the chamber, and then that's how you would design it. So it's really quick to throw together. Here's the treasure chamber for the dragon. And every time, at the end of every initiative for every player, you roll to see if the dragon wakes up. So the longer you're there, digging through the treasure, it increases the chance that the dragon hears you and shows up. And it's like heavily shielded and does a lot of damage. And so the idea is once that dragon wakes up, you're running to get out of the area. And so how much you're even going to be able to loot is a bit variable. You might have like an absolute complete, stealing of all of that loot. These are descriptions for the empty rooms that you can roll on. These are the traps that you can use. The door traps, the room traps. You'll notice here that on these room traps, you'll have a timer, 1 through 7, 8 through 15, and 16 plus. And so you get those 20 time units. And as you move through the time units, the traps become more and more deadly, more dangerous, and more nefarious. Okay, so as the timer goes on, it gets harder and harder and more dangerous. There's some door traps that get more dangerous. And so the idea is it's this slog of trying to survive, right? And here's all the random tables, these random events that can kind of take place. Wandering monsters, okay? And then it outlines things that are like treasures you can get, treasure tables, how to upgrade the quality on those, artifact generator. Here are the monsters. These are the general monsters, ogres, skeletons, mountain troll, etc., etc. Nice giant spider here. Very nice. And then as you move through, it gets to like named creatures, like the more dangerous ones that you might find in certain key rooms. These are named monsters. So the mountain troll, Gam, okay, and other various monsters that you might encounter. Then you get to the actual real powerful artifacts that they might encounter, and then they might even escape with. And then you get to these deeper funnel rules in Chapter 8. Okay, so that is the game. And so you can see how it's very variable. And there's 170 pages, I think. It's really nice use of space here. You're getting a lot kind of packed in. But as we kind of take a look at some of these traps, some of these doors, some of these things that can be put in, I have these thoughts on how to use this better as, say, like a campaign, right? So it can be used as a one-shot, right? And it's very variable. You can run it several times for different people, and it won't ever really be the same. There's a lot kind of packed in here. It's interesting that they give like this really nice map, this really nice kind of background that you could fit it into like a realm. But because it's so deadly and so punishing, like after those 20 units, the light goes out, all the doors close, and you just die. You're cursed, you suffocate, and you turn into skeletons that will now, roam the halls of Ath Ungol forever. And so it's very punishing. So it's really easy to run for like level 1s and funneling because you don't have much to lose. But as you gain levels and power and story and experience and background, players have a lot more to lose. So how do you really kind of fit this in? Well, I would say that I wouldn't make it the center of something, but you could place it on the map or use this map for a setting and just have it be there. So there's things that we've used in the past, like there's the Deck of Many Things, right? Which is this rare, wondrous, powerful item that typically players would only see a number of times. They could count on one hand in the time that they've played the classical D&D. And that's kind of how it was designed, where your DM would start rolling on tables, and you'd see him roll a certain number on 100, a certain number on 100, and then he's got to pull out a d20. And as you play more and more, you get an idea of which kind of things are under certain numbers. And so as they start to roll closer and closer to something like the Deck of Many Things, you start to get kind of like excited because of how rare it is. And because it's so rare and interesting, it draws people in. And I think that that's the best way to use Ath Ungol, right? If there's in other old ones, there was like very, very rare encounters that you would maybe even never encounter because of how rare they are as you're playing. There might be some ancient merchant wizard that you might see walking the desert, and you're like, oh, I remember we encountered someone like this. What was it, like 2 years ago? And oh my god, I think it's that guy. But so like out of game, you probably don't know who it is because you've lost characters since then, and these are completely new characters, and you have to play dumb. But it's such a rare kind of occurrence, and you might offer like a boon and a curse, or you might have these rare magical items, and you're just kind of pissed off because you're level 2 with no gold, and you're like, oh, we know he has rare items, but we can't afford any of it. Oh my gosh, oh, I wonder if he still has those boots of haste. So I think I would use Ath Ungol as that rare kind of gem that maybe is shrouded in mist or falls into the mountain or something like that, but at every once in a while, whatever the roll is on the weather or the timeline or the moons that align in the sky or something like that, Ath Ungol like opens up rarely, and then it has this like dark beacon that flies into the sky or something like that, and everybody kind of knows that Ath Ungol has been kind of unleashed for 24 hours or something like that. And so that they can go, or they don't have to, but, once you wag the carrot, you know what I mean? They're probably going to rush to it. And for an OSR kind of game, that's brilliant and beautiful and great. And I think what I would do is one of three things, if I can remember the three things. The first thing I would consider, if you're comfortable with the 20 units and the 3, chamber and 3, is I would maybe variable the amount of time units. I maybe put them in a one of those black silk kind of bags. Take those blue beads that you would find in any kind of dollar store. Instead of putting 20 in, because players will know it's 3 chamber 3. We got 20 unit. They can game. They know how to game the numbers. I would say get 17 beads and then a 1d4, and that way you get somewhere between 18 and 22. So they might have 18. They might have 22. They don't know. The second thing that you can do is, if you're rolling for the doors and the traps, you can have one door randomly on the list that's very rare to roll that maybe is just a straight exit. And so if they get the exit kind of early, they're kind of mad because they're like, oh, well, we can't take the exit. We just came in, and once you pass that exit, it gets scratched off the list and you can't ever access it again. But if you reach that door just before the layer, then people usually get down each other's throats. So like, I don't know, we only have we don't have units you have left. But if they get it in the last 3 sectors, then that's kind of like a lucky possible exit. I'm not a big fan of that one, but that's something that you can do where once it happens, it's scratched off. It's very rare, but it could happen and likely just never really happens. The other thing that I would do is, if you do 3, 1, and 3, I would say maybe in the last 3 sectors, there's a percentage chance that a door does kind of happen. And it's heavily weighted for the door to come up in sector 3, the last sector that the door would naturally come up. But there's a very rare chance it happens in sector 1, so a rare chance it happens in 2, it's very likely to happen in 3, but it could go into sector 4, and it could go into sector 5. So this, for the difficulty, they'll add a 4th or a 5th sector. So you could have, say, maybe a 5% chance there's an exit door at the end of sector 1, a 10% chance there's an exit door at the end of sector 3, and a 50 or 60 or 75% chance, or whatever you want to use, at the end of sector 3. And so all 3 added together become a very high percentage, right, because of the nature of multiplying probability. So they might have a 90 to 95% chance of exiting through 1, 2, and 3, but 1 and 2 are very rare, and the 3rd is very likely. But there's that 5%. Or maybe that 10% that they have to go, it's sector 4. And they're like, oh, we don't know how many beads we have. We used 18. So you can add that tension that way. So I think what I would do is I would variable the time units. I would keep it in a bag, some way of varying it very slightly, like 17 plus, 18 plus, something like that. And then this idea of there's this very rare chance, or maybe there's no exit in sector 1, 5% sector 2, 80% sector 3 or 90% sector 3, but there's the chance you can go into sector 4, and even a very rare 5% chance that you go into sector 5. So maybe sector 4 is 95% chance, and at the end of sector 5 is the guaranteed exit. And that creates this kind of like powerful variability that doesn't go far outside the rules, but makes it so that the players can't necessarily game the time units or when they actually exit. And I think what I would do is I would include it in whatever campaign that I have, but not as a key central piece. And I maybe would use it as a one-shot or tunneling, but I think I would put that like off to the side, or this what here, or it kind of comes up and they hear about this rare kind of case. And I would just have it be, quote unquote, part of the milieu of the realm that I have. That very rare pop-up piece that seems to draw people or other players together. And hey, even if they walk away from Ath Ungol, whatever, you can have that, competing party, that usually comes back and presses the team to be even better. And, this antagonist adventuring group. And hey, maybe they made a killing in Ath Ungol the last time when the players didn't. So you can wag that carrot in front of that bigger carrot in front of them. So A5 sizing, 35 USD, was originally a 1985 board game of going in and treasures and trying to get out, very deadly and timed. It's for Dragonbane, but very applicable to any OSR kind of game. And I would encourage other people to really kind of take a look at these SRDs, these third-party provided free items, files from these publishers, because you can make your own. There's only a few that were even sold of this. If you take a look at Kickstarter, it's not a massive Kickstarter. It was successful, but again, something like the standard edition, I don't know how long the English print run will be, because this is not print on demand. They would have to send print runs. And so for me, when I see these, I get a little kind of worried, and definitely kind of with like the limited edition kind of thing, it's like, well, that's just never going to come. It's not that this is anything special, but for an OSR kind of item, this is not something that kind of comes around all that often, and it's very kind of applicable to many types of campaigns or OSR settings. So that's my history plus review. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you pick it up, and if not, what would you use it for if you could use it. Take care.